Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Janae of JanaeM.com. I go by the Millennial Money Minister. My official title is Financial Consultant, and as you know, this week we've been talking about the search process for buying a home and who you need to have on your team. So June is National Home Ownership Month, and as a financial professional and someone who is I just love all things real estate. Home ownership is a topic that's near and dear to my heart because of my personal story and how my family was displaced from our home and had to move across states and literally start life all over again. I definitely believe that there's a right way to approach home ownership so that way that same thing doesn't happen to you because of a few bad financial decisions. So that was the reason why I created my course, The Blueprint, Buying a Home and Building Wealth with Real Estate, to educate people on how to properly prepare financially for buying a home. And so all this month, in the month of June, I've been teaching different lessons and topics that I talk about in the course, so that way it can help you wherever you are in your journey. So today we're actually talking about the person who works behind the scenes and does a lot of the digging and the research for you to make sure the home that you're buying is actually a property that is free and clear to be purchased. And that is a closing agent. Now, a closing agent may be an attorney. That's who I worked with when I went through my closing process. And basically their job is to make sure that the title or the actual paperwork that says that the current owner is actually the owner transfers successfully to you. And if there's anything that the seller was not honest about or any infractions that are on the property that you're trying to buy, they're the ones doing the research to find out whether or not there are any issues with your property. Because ultimately, there are cases where there can be liens on the property, and that will prevent you from getting what's called a clear title, meaning allowing that piece of paperwork to transfer successfully and smoothly over to you. So it's their job to do the research and make sure that everything is on the up and up. There are no issues, there are no outstanding debts that are tied to the property in the form of liens. And so they are handling that entire process. So it's very research heavy, and there are some legalities to it. And so you want to make sure that you are working with a reputable closing agent. My realtor actually connected me to mine. And so that's why, again, and we talked about this earlier this week, the realtor is kind of like the gatekeeper for all the contacts that you'll need. But just keeping this in mind, if you do happen to meet a closing agent, networking, or if someone's recommended, or if you meet through mutual friends, you keep that person in mind, because you can have them help you through your process. And it can make things a lot easier if you know the person. So that way, if you have any questions, you don't feel bad about reaching out to actually ask them. Because I know when I went through my process, I just trusted everyone to do what they were supposed to do, especially since they came highly recommended. So I didn't really reach out with questions unless I was instructed to. So I just trusted them to do their job. But even when going through the home buying process, it's a learning experience. And so since you're paying the people that you are working with, you should definitely pull on them and lean on them to be able to ask questions and make sure you're understanding each step in your process. Another thing that the closing agent will do is they will take your money and hold your money in what's called an escrow account. So that way, when you go to the closing table and sign your final paperwork and documents, there will be money set aside to help take care of any closing costs and any last fees. And so they really are working behind the scenes to make sure that your transaction goes through very fluidly. So they are a key part of the process. You will need a closing agent. And if you don't already know one, then your realtor can suggest and recommend one for you. Also, again, I've talked about the research process. But again, especially when you're investing in real estate, which is an area that I've started to get into, there are cases where you can be prevented, and I touched on this just a bit earlier, you can be prevented from actually buying a property because a property is tied up in something else. And so that's why it's important to have someone, even if you're considering investing in real estate, you need to make sure that you are aware of what is on the title of a property. And so if you're somebody who's investing in real estate, you need to have a good title company. And I would suggest having one that actually works with investors. So I just wanted to insert that there. For the sake of this course, we're specifically talking about purchasing property for the sake of being a owner-occupant. So this being a property that's actually going to be your home, so residential space, not necessarily an investment property. But if you're somebody who's considering that, especially if you're somebody who plans to turn maybe your first home into an investment property, especially when you get your second one, if you don't plan to occupy it, or if you do plan to, say for instance, upgrade from one home to the next, but also secure additional rental properties later, a title company and having a good one that works with investors will serve you really, really well. So I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that because they really help make sure that you do your due diligence to make sure that you can get your property free and clear. And that way, when the paperwork is all said and done with, everything is in order, and you successfully have transferred that title from who the previous seller was to your name, because ultimately what's on that paperwork is what the courts and the legal system will identify as the owner. And so there have been, bad transactions that have happened simply because the paperwork was not done correctly. So I cannot stress enough, you definitely want to make sure that you're working with a reputable company that knows what they're doing, because if the paperwork is wrong, you can literally lose your home just for the sake of technicality. It's that important. So you definitely don't want someone who is not experienced with this and does not have a track record of doing it, because it's a lot that's at stake. So thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions, you can post them in the comments. I'd be happy to answer them. Again, talking about the people that you need to have on your team this week, I'm just sharing general knowledge just so you can understand who the people are and what it is that they do. The course focuses very heavily on the financial aspect of it, because buying a home is a huge decision, and I do believe that you need to engage in ownership of property in order to build wealth successfully, and there's research and articles that prove that. And so I want to make sure that if you are going to purchase a home, that you're going about it the right way, in a way that can support you financially over the course of your lifetime. So if you're interested in learning more about the course, you can go to bit.ly/the blueprint to home buying. That's bit.ly/the blueprint to home buying. You can also click the link below this video to enroll. I'll make sure I put the link there. And again, if you have any questions, just post them in the comments. And if you know someone who is in the process of wanting to buy a home for the first time, share this video with them either via email or on social media, so that way they can get the information that they need in order to position themselves correctly to be able to buy a home and be financially comfortable and secure. So thank you all for tuning in again, and I look forward to talking with you on the next video. Take care.